So, what is the difference between a revocable trust and an irrevocable trust? Well, let's start with a revocable trust. A revocable trust, also known as a trust, also known as a revocable living trust, also known as a living trust, are all the same thing. And it's basically just an agreement between the grantor, who is the creator of the trust, who puts specific instructions in writing to the trustee. That trustee is the person who agrees to hold legal title to all of the assets in the trust. And they follow all of these instructions in the trust for the benefit of their beneficiaries. So while you are alive and you have a revocable living trust, you are all three of these roles. What this also means is that while you are alive, you are able to make changes to your revocable living trust at any point. On the other side, we have an irrevocable trust. And there's a few things that we look at when it comes to irrevocable trust planning. It's really a matter of what are you trying to accomplish by having an irrevocable trust? Oftentimes, people look to irrevocable trust to do asset protection, which it will do. But a lot of times, people don't understand that irrevocable trust actually take away some of the control that you have amongst your assets. And so it may not be something that you would necessarily want to do for your primary residence. Oftentimes, asset protection trusts or irrevocable trusts that we would be looking at doing would be for clients with assets maybe over 10 to 20 million dollars. And so it's a very high asset planning tool that's used to put those plans in place, to put those protections, to protect those assets. With irrevocable trust, the important thing to consider is that you are no longer in control of your assets. You would actually have a trustee that you would have to generally pay that would be in charge of managing those assets on your behalf. So sometimes when people understand that there is generally an annual fee that is going to go to pay this trustee, it's something that they would generally not want to have to do because they don't want to have to make that annual payment. A misconception that I see with irrevocable trust is that people don't understand that when you have a revocable living trust, when you actually pass away, your trust becomes irrevocable, which means that when you were to pass away, nobody can go in and make changes to what your provisions are in your trust. And so sometimes there's this misconception that people think, oh, I have this irrevocable trust. Well, it doesn't actually become irrevocable until you pass away. At the point that you are in good health and can make changes, your revocable living trust can be revoked or changed at any point that you want to. Oftentimes, people want an irrevocable trust because they want that asset protection. And so, again, if there's a high net worth client that maybe has over $10 million dollars in assets that they want to protect, there's certain trusts that can be created that would be irrevocable, that would provide that asset protection against creditors, lawsuits, and just making sure those assets were protected. So, when you are doing your estate planning, it's important to work with an estate planning professional to understand the different opportunities that you have from a planning perspective. Depending on your asset level and what you're trying to accomplish, you can have lots of different types of trust to be able to accomplish those goals. So, some may have a revocable living trust for their community property, maybe that they have with their spouse. They may also have a separate property trust that maybe they inherited some property before they were married or something else that they had prior to marriage that they want to keep separate. And then maybe an irrevocable trust on top of that, that if there is that high net worth value that they want to have those assets protected, again, losing control of the ability to make changes to those assets. When you have a revocable living trust, you can make changes to your trust at any point throughout your life, so long as you are in good mental health. And so that means that if you want to make changes, change who your agents are, change your beneficiary designations, change how beneficiaries actually receive it or what percentages, you have the ability to do that. You also have the ability to what we call revoke your revocable living trust, which means that you revoke it to say, I no longer want it to be in existence. For whatever reason, whatever your estate planning goals that you're trying to accomplish, you have the ability to do that with a revocable living trust. Because when you have a revocable living trust, you are in charge over all of the aspects of your trust. When it comes to taxes and a revocable living trust, the assets that you have in your revocable living trust are your own assets. So, from a tax perspective, there's no advantage or disadvantage to having a revocable living trust. It's literally your assets with your social security number that are your assets of your trust. So, it's not going to make any difference from an accounting perspective or a tax perspective for your revocable living trust. If you are trying to determine whether a revocable living trust or an irrevocable trust is better suited for you and your assets and your family needs, please consider us at Hermance Law by giving us a call to get a free consultation to help you figure out what's best for you.
Have you ever thought about what would happen to your house if something happened to you? What about your children? Do you have guardians nominated for your minor children? I would like to offer you a free phone consultation on estate planning. This is to make sure that you understand what estate planning actually is, what's involved in the process, how do we work for clients to make sure that they have legal plans in place to make sure that their assets are protected. Click the link to schedule your free consultation.